My name is Caleb, and on the first day of the apocalypse, everyone around me received powers that sounded like they had been forged inside a volcano by a god with anger issues. Cole got lightning blade. Ava got thousand eye aim. June got inventory theater, which sounded silly until she opened a floating closet the size of a warehouse and dropped a vending machine on a monster. And me, I got healthy sleep schedule. The system appeared in front of my face like a dramatic crystal screen, sparkling with the kind of importance that made weak people stand up straighter. Skill acquired, healthy sleep schedule. Effect, recover slightly more when sleeping before 10 p.m. Bonus, you feel proud of yourself. For 3 seconds, there was silence. Then Cole laughed so hard, he almost choked on canned beans. World was ending. The sky had cracked like a bad phone screen. Red portals were pouring monsters into the streets. People were awakening powers, grabbing weapons, forming parties, and screaming about survival. And I had received the magical ability to be someone's responsible uncle. Ava tried not to laugh, which made it worse. June stared at the floating text over my head and said the words that followed me for the next year. So your cheat code is bedtime. I wanted to say something cool, something cold, something that would make them regret doubting me. Instead, I said, apparently. That night, our shelter shook from distant explosions. The newly awakened players argued over watch shifts and grinding plans. Cole sharpened his sword on the floor just to make sparks. Ava checked her arrows. June arranged supplies like she was preparing a convenience store during a hurricane. A group of players stood around a broken table, planning an all-night hunt. The logic was simple. Monsters spawned more at night. More monsters meant more experience. More experience meant stronger skills. Stronger skills meant not dying the next day. It sounded correct. It sounded heroic. It also sounded like a fast way to become a very powerful corpse. At 9:42 p.m., I stood up. Cole looked at me. Where are you going? To bed. He blinked. There are wolves outside with knives for teeth. Then I should get proper rest. Someone in the corner laughed. Another person said the apocalypse was not a school night. Cole called me pillow boy. Ava looked away, but I saw her mouth twitch. I found a dusty cot behind a stack of bottled water, dragged over 3 blankets, used a rolled jacket as a pillow, and set a cracked kitchen timer for 5:55 a.m. The others left to hunt. The ground shook, screams echoed in the distance. At one point, something clawed along the outside wall and breathed through the cracks like it was checking the smell of fear. I closed my eyes. And because I am a petty person with excellent discipline, I slept. When I woke up, the shelter looked like a medical drama filmed in a dumpster. Cole was lying against a wall, covered in black blood, laughing in the empty way people laugh when they are about to make terrible choices. Ava had one eye bandaged. June was sitting under a table, eating cereal without milk, whispering inventory numbers to herself like a prayer. They had gained levels. They had also gained fatigue, mana burn, tremors, nausea, and something called minor trauma accumulation. I had gained a little recovery. And also this. 7-hour early sleep achieved. Body condition improved. Mental clarity improved. Minor hidden bonus applied. Healthy sleep schedule streak 1 day. I stretched. Every joint cracked like bubble wrap, and the moment I stood up, I realized something strange. I felt good. Not normal good, not before apocalypse good. Better, clear, like someone had washed my brain with cold water and removed several pop-up ads. Cole glared at me through bloodshot eyes. Why do you look fresh? Because I slept. He looked like he wanted to stab me for moral reasons. Then the siren went off. A portal opened in the middle of the shelter. The players panicked because monsters coming through the wall was one thing, but monsters coming through the snack aisle felt personal. A wolf creature burst out, all bone armor and drooling red eyes. Cole tried to stand, but his knees buckled. Ava reached for her bow, but her hands were shaking. June lifted a can of peaches like she was considering a financial investment in blunt force trauma. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find. A pillow. It was not a special pillow. It was not a system item. It had stains with historical value. The wolf lunged. I moved. And somehow, because my body was rested and everyone else was operating on 3 hours of terror and gas station snacks, I reacted first. I sidestepped, shoved the pillow into its jaws, and kicked a folding chair into its front legs. The wolf went down. Cole's lightning blade flickered weakly as he tried to strike, but his mana backfired and shocked his own hair into a tragic sculpture. So I did the obvious thing. I grabbed his sword and stabbed the wolf through the neck. Monster defeated. Experience gained. Unorthodox weapon assist bonus, pillow. Everyone stared. I stood over the corpse, holding a lightning sword I had absolutely no right to hold, wearing socks with little ducks on them. That was the first time I realized the system had not given me a weak skill. It had given me something much worse. A rule, and rules can be abused. By the third day, the shelter had changed. Everyone who mocked me was still mocking me, but now they did it while limping. The strongest players were gaining levels faster than me, but they were paying interest on their bodies like their bones were credit cards. Ava's aim was still insane, but she kept blinking too late. Cole's sword could cut through concrete, but he had started hearing whispers whenever he used too much lightning. June was fine physically, because she refused to fight anything that did not fit into her supply strategy, but she was sleeping in 15-minute fragments between inventory sorting and panic accounting. I was still level 2. But I was level 2 with glowing skin and a stable heart rate. I started experimenting. The skill said sleeping before 10 p.m. improved recovery slightly. It did not define a bed. It did not define comfort. It did not say I had to be safe. That was important, because safety was a luxury item, and we were living in a broken high school gym where the vending machine had better defenses than most people. At 9:58 p.m. on the third night, a swarm of sewer goblins found us. They poured through the basement entrance, green and fast and carrying rusty tools. Players shouted. Cole grinned because he was the kind of person who saw a monster swarm and thought, finally, a chance to reduce my lifespan dramatically. I looked at the clock. 9:59 p.m. I pulled out a sleeping bag. Ava stared at me. Caleb. What? Are you serious? Dead serious. You are not sleeping during a goblin attack. Watch me. I zipped myself into the sleeping bag like a burrito with legal rights and lay down behind a stack of gym mats. The goblins charged. The system screen flickered. Sleep attempt detected. Hostile environment. Comfort rating miserable. Commitment rating impressive. Early sleep condition met. The moment my eyes closed, warmth spread through my chest. My breathing slowed. The sound of screaming became distant, like it belonged to another room. Then something impossible happened. A goblin jumped over the mats and stabbed down at my face. My hand moved before I woke up. I rolled, still wrapped in the sleeping bag, and the blade pierced the floor. I kicked both feet up, caught the goblin under the chin, and sent it flying into Cole's lightning arc. Cole stared. Did you just sleep dodge? I did not answer because I was technically unconscious. My body kept moving in tiny, efficient motions, not fighting, not really. More like the system was protecting the sleep attempt from interruptions. Any attack that would wake me triggered an automatic response. I rolled away from bites, tucked under swings, and once somehow headbutted a goblin in the knee while snoring. June later described it as watching a caterpillar do martial arts. By morning, I had survived the night, gained my third sleep streak, and earned a new notification. Passive adaptation unlocked, rest guard. While asleep under threat, your body may perform minimal defensive movements to preserve sleep quality. Minimal defensive movements. The system called it minimal. One goblin had been embedded upside down in a basketball hoop. That morning, Cole stopped calling me Pillow Boy. He switched to Nap Goblin, which was an improvement in specificity but not in dignity. The first real dungeon appeared on day 7. It rose out of the football field, a black tower with no door at the bottom and a glowing sign made of blue fire. Beginner Dungeon, the Bell Tower of Regret. Recommended party size, 20. Estimated clear time, 12 hours. Warning, each floor increases mental pressure. Ava read the warning and frowned. Cole cracked his neck and said the worst sentence any Apocalypse player can say. We clear it tonight. The entire shelter cheered. I looked at the dungeon, I looked at the sky, I looked at the clock. It was 6:12 p.m. 12-hour dungeon, I said. If we start now, it goes past 10. Cole gave me a look. Please tell me you are not scheduling the apocalypse around bedtime. I am absolutely scheduling the apocalypse around bedtime. Ava sighed. Caleb, we need the rewards. Then we enter at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Cole laughed. Monsters do not wait for your morning routine. I pointed at the glowing dungeon. It has been sitting there all day like a haunted office building. I think it can wait 9 more hours. Nobody listened. They entered at sunset. I stayed outside with June, who did not enter because she said any tower named after regret was obviously bad branding. At 9:30 p.m., screams started echoing from inside. At 9:45 p.m., the first players stumbled out, crying and muttering about bells. At 9:55 p.m., Ava came out dragging someone by the collar, her face pale. Cole did not come out. I could have gone in. The heroic thing would have been to charge into the Nightmare Tower before bedtime and save everyone. But heroes die because they let villains choose the schedule. So at 9:58 p.m., I spread my sleeping bag under the dungeon sign, set my timer and said, "Wake me at 5. Ava looked furious. Cole is still inside. Then he has 7 hours to regret his life choices. That's cold. It's warm in the sleeping bag. She almost slapped me. I slept. And at exactly midnight, the bell tower attacked the dream of everyone nearby. A massive bronze bell appeared in my sleep, swinging above an endless staircase. Every toll carried memories I had buried, embarrassing moments, failures, the time I waved back at someone who was waving at the person behind me, truly unforgivable pain. The bell tried to crush my mind. Then my system screen appeared inside the dream. 7-day sleep streak achieved. Reward acquired, mental resistance. Effect: resist fear, madness, regret, intrusive thoughts, and poorly timed emotional manipulation. The bell rang again. I yawned. The entire dream froze. A voice whispered from the tower, confused and offended. It showed me my worst memory again, trying harder. I watched myself in middle school call a teacher mom. Then I said that was character development. The memory cracked. The bell's pressure collapsed. When I woke at 5, the tower looked weaker. Its blue flames were flickering. Ava was sitting beside me, exhausted but alive. "You're insane," she said. "No, well rested." We entered at sunrise. The inside of the tower was full of traps designed to break concentration, whispering walls, shadows wearing familiar faces, bells that rang whenever someone doubted themselves. Ava struggled. June followed us reluctantly, holding a metal tray and saying she was only there to recover assets. Cole was on the 6th floor, trapped in a loop where he kept fighting copies of himself, each one more dramatic than the last. The tower wanted us to regret. That was its whole gimmick. But regret needs a tired mind to grow. I walked through the 1st floor while the walls whispered that I was weak. I told them I had a consistent sleep routine and therefore a superior long-term strategy. The walls had no answer. On the 2nd floor, shadows showed of every shot she had missed. Her hands shook. The more she tried to focus, the louder the bell got. I told her to close one eye. She snapped. That is terrible advice for an archer. No, close one eye and breathe for 4 seconds, then shoot on the exhale. She did it. The bell's rhythm broke just enough for her arrow to pierce the shadow. On the 3rd floor, June's shadow accused her of only caring about supplies. June stared at it and said, "Correct." The shadow dissolved because confidence is sometimes just refusing therapy. On the 6th floor, Cole was losing. He had fought all night. His copies had no fatigue because they were made of regret and terrible hair. He was on one knee, lightning crawling up his arms like snakes. He saw me and laughed weakly, finally decided to help. I was busy becoming mentally stable. The copies charged. I did not fight them head-on. That was Cole's mistake. The copies were powered by his need to prove himself, so I walked past them and kicked the bell in the center of the room. Nothing happened. Then I kicked it again, rhythmically. Ava stared. "What are you doing?" "Changing the alarm." Every copy moved according to the bell's beat. Their attacks matched its toll, like dancers in a tragic music video. I could not overpower them, but I could ruin the timing. I kicked the bell off-beat. Ding clang, ding ding, awful. The copy stumbled. Cole noticed, grinned, and slashed through 3 at once. Then I dragged a chain around the bell and told June to store it. She blinked the bell. "Can you? It is a cursed dungeon object. So valuable." Her eyes sharpened. June opened her inventory and the bell vanished. The entire tower went silent. Without its regret engine, the boss on the top floor appeared early. It was a tall, thin creature made of robes and accusations, holding a hammer bigger than a refrigerator. Boss encountered, the keeper of regret. It raised the hammer. I pointed to the empty space where the bell had been and said, "Your alarm clock is gone." The boss paused. That pause killed it. Ava's arrow hit one eye. Cole's lightning cut through its knee. June dropped the stolen bell from inventory directly onto its head. I walked up and stabbed it with a broken clock hand. Dungeon cleared. Special clear condition, removed core object. Party title acquired, early risers. When we came out, the entire shelter saw Cole leaning on my shoulder. That should have been a powerful moment of respect. Unfortunately, I was also carrying a pillow under one arm, so everyone was confused about the symbolism. By day 30, the world had become a disaster with leveling mechanics. Cities were divided into safe zones, monster zones, and zones where someone had clearly tried to open a restaurant again too soon. Players formed guilds. Guilds formed rankings. Rankings formed ego problems. Cole joined the strongest combat group in our area and quickly became their poster boy. Ava became famous because she could shoot a flying monster through fog while blindfolded, though she refused to perform the blindfolded part after one incident with a signpost. June became rich because inventory skills made her the closest thing to a bank, a moving truck, and a smuggler with customer service. I became a rumor. The man who slept through sieges. The guy who cleared a dungeon after refusing to enter until morning. The lunatic who carried a pillow like a sacred weapon. My level lagged behind, but my condition stayed perfect. Players who had reached level 20 looked older than old bread. Their eyes flickered, their hands shook, they drank monotonics like bad coffee. At night, they chased monsters. At night, I chased blankets. On the 30th day, the system gave me the first real absurdity. 30-day sleep streak achieved. Reward acquired, dream training. Effect while asleep before 10 p.m., enter a training dream. Time dilation variable. Pain educational but non-lethal. Instructor pending. I fell asleep expecting maybe a quiet dojo. Instead, I woke inside a sky full of floating beds. Each bed drifted above a sea of clouds. Stars hung low like lanterns. In the distance stood a giant temple made of blankets, moonlight, and the kind of architecture designed by someone who had never paid rent. A woman sat on the temple steps, drinking tea. She looked young, old, amused, and extremely disappointed in me at the same time. Her silver hair moved like smoke. Her eyes were dark blue, like midnight had decided to judge my posture. Finally, she said. I looked around. Are you the instructor? She smiled. I am Iris. Is that your title? My name. The air shook slightly when she said it, like the dream itself remembered her and felt embarrassed for forgetting. I bowed because when a mysterious dream woman introduces herself in a floating temple, you should be polite. It costs nothing and reduces the chance of being turned into soup. Iris looked me up and down. Your world thinks sleep is weakness. It does. And you believe sleep is strength. I believe anything the system rewards can be exploited. She laughed. The clouds rippled. Good, she said. Honesty is faster than destiny. Then she pushed me off the temple. I fell for what felt like 10 minutes, screaming the entire time with professional consistency. When I hit the cloud sea, it became a battlefield. Goblin attacked, then a wolf, then the Keeper of Regret, then Cole, except Dream Cole had 2 swords and even worse confidence. I got beaten. Again and again. Dream training was not a peaceful montage. It was a customer complaint department for my reflexes. Every mistake repeated until I solved it. Every panic became a lesson. Every lazy movement got me hit with a wooden stick by Iris, who somehow appeared everywhere and drank tea between acts of violence. When I woke up, I had slept 8 hours. Inside the dream, I had trained for 40. My body was not stronger. My skills were not higher. But my mind remembered every movement. That morning, I fought a stone boar outside the shelter. Normally, I would have needed a team. The boar charged like a rolling boulder with dental problems. I stepped aside before it moved. My foot landed exactly where it needed to be. My hand found the soft spot beneath its jaw. My borrowed spear slid in. The boar collapsed. Ava saw it from the wall. You trained, she said. I slept. That is getting really annoying. It is also getting really useful. The next weeks became ridiculous. Every night before 10, I entered dream training. Iris threw me into impossible scenarios, a bridge collapsing under me, a giant spider that attacked based on breathing, a room where the floor insulted me until I lost focus, a battlefield where every enemy was invisible unless I listened to their footsteps. At first, I tried to win. Then I learned the trick. Dream training was not about brute force, it was about creative solutions. Iris punished straightforward thinking. If a monster was too strong, I needed to change the rules. One night, she placed me against a dragon. It was the size of an apartment building, covered in black scales, breathing blue fire. I had a wooden sword, a blanket, and a cup of tea. I charged and died instantly. I tried hiding and died slower. I tried using the blanket as a shield and became a roasted burrito. After 27 failures, I stopped. The dragon watched me. I looked at the tea. Then I walked calmly toward the dragon and poured the tea on the ground. The dragon sniffed. Iris raised one eyebrow. I dipped the blanket into the tea, tied it to the wooden sword, and waved it in the air. The dragon's eyes followed the scent. I tossed the sword off the edge of the cliff. The dragon lunged after it. The cliff broke. The dragon fell. The dream ended. Iris clapped once. Cowardly, she said. Efficient. Dishonorable. Alive. She smiled better. That became my style. I did not need the biggest skill. I needed the cleanest angle. When a dungeon spawned with a boss that regenerated from wounds, I did not fight it. I let it chase me into a freezer and asked June to inventory the door. The boss froze solid while we played cards outside. When a swarm of flying eyes hypnotized players, I slept early inside a supply crate and used mental resistance to identify the command pattern. The eyes had to blink every 3 seconds to maintain control, so Ava shot only during blinks and wiped them out with the calm expression of someone deleting spam. When a guild challenged us for territory, I accepted a duel at 6 a.m. Their champion arrived after hunting all night. I arrived after oatmeal. He had higher stats, more skills, better armor. He also had the reaction time of a tired raccoon. The duel lasted 9 seconds. I tripped him with a blanket roll, struck his helmet with a frying pan, and won by technical humiliation. The crowd hated it. Then they loved it. Because nothing spreads faster than a powerful man being defeated by breakfast energy. By day 60, people started copying me. A few tried sleeping early. Most failed. Not because it was hard physically, because it was hard emotionally. When the world ends, sleeping feels like surrender. Every hour not grinding feels like someone else getting ahead. People saw portals, monsters, rankings, and thought rest was laziness. They did not understand. I was grinding. My dungeon was a mattress. My boss was bad habits. And I was absolutely speedrunning it. Then came the Crimson Marathon. The system announced it at noon, across every screen in the sky. Event Crimson Marathon. Duration 72 hours. Rule: monsters will spawn continuously. Reward scales with number of kills. Warning: fatigue penalties increased. The city exploded with excitement. 72 hours of monsters meant unimaginable experience. Guilds prepared stimulant potions, mana boosters, pain blockers, and the kind of energy drinks that looked illegal in 3 timelines. Cole found me sharpening a kitchen knife. "You joining?" he asked. "Of course." He looked surprised, really. "Yes, until 9:30 p.m. He laughed, but not as cruelly as before. Cole had changed a little, not enough to stop being a dramatic disaster, but enough to understand that my stupidity was usually shaped like a plan. "You'll miss most of the event." "No," I said, "I'll miss the part where everyone becomes useless." At midnight, the city became a slaughter festival. Players fought like legends. Cole's lightning painted the streets blue. Ava's arrows cut through monster wings. June used inventory portals to drop barricades and once accidentally dropped 300 folding chairs on a troll, which somehow counted as a trap combo. I fought too, not the strongest monsters, the weird ones. Spitting insects that blinded healers, the little crawlers that chewed supply bags, the screaming bats that caused panic. I attacked the pieces that made everyone else worse. Then at 9:30 p.m. I left. People booed me while bleeding from places that should not leak. I slept inside a reinforced bus June had modified into a rolling bedroom. She called it a mobile recovery unit. Cole called it a coward wagon. I called it home. Day 2 began. The city looked worse. Players had higher kill counts and lower sanity. The fatigue penalties had started stacking. Movement slowed. Mistakes multiplied. Arguments broke out over loot. At 6 a.m., I stepped out of the bus, fully recovered, carrying coffee for everyone like a villain. Ava took 1 cup and whispered, "I hate how right you are. Drink, your hatred needs hydration." By hour 40, the top players were hallucinating. Some attacked shadows, some missed obvious traps. Cole kept fighting, but lightning burns crawled up his neck. A huge monster appeared at hour 52, a red-armored centipede longer than a train. Most players charged. The centipede's armor reflected direct attacks. I watched for 30 seconds, then noticed something. It only turned left. Maybe its right side was damaged. Maybe its brain was built by a lazy demon. I did not care. I shouted for Ava to shoot its left eyes, not to kill, just to irritate. June dropped metal shelves to create angled paths. Cole, barely standing, sliced the ground to force sparks and noise from the left side. The centipede turned left. Again. We herded it in a spiral until it tied itself into a knot around a broken statue. Then I walked up and pushed a bus down the hill. The bus smashed into the knot. Monster defeated. Tactical humiliation bonus acquired. The entire city saw it. A raid boss had been killed because I treated it like a confused garden hose. By hour 70, the players were wrecked. The final wave spawned at night. The system expected desperation. It expected heroic sacrifice. I checked the time. 9:50 p.m. Biggest monster of the event crawled out of the sky crack, a giant red deer with burning antlers and a crown of knives. It radiated pressure so heavy that people fell to their knees. Event boss, Crimson Stag of Exhaustion. Special ability, Fatigue Inversion. The more tired the target, the greater the damage received. Everyone went silent. Because everyone was tired. Everyone except me. Cole looked at me with bloodshot eyes. You planned for this. No, I said, I just go to bed early. Sometimes morality and strategy overlap. The stag charged. I could not overpower it, I could not outrun it, but I understood its skill. It punished exhaustion. It was built to kill grinders. So I walked forward, calm, rested, and offensively hydrated. The stag's aura hit me. My body felt heavy for half a second, then mental resistance pushed the pressure away. The boss hesitated. It probably never met someone at hour 71 of a combat event who had recently flossed. Ava fired into its antlers. Cole used the last of his lightning to melt the street. June opened her inventory and dropped the frozen regenerative boss from earlier directly in front of the stag. The two monsters collided, hated each other instantly, and started fighting. I used the chaos to climb a lamppost. Then I jumped onto the stag's back. It bucked, screamed, tried to throw me off. Its knife crown spun toward my face. I did the only thing that made sense. I pulled out a sleep mask. The system chimed. Early sleep attempt detected. Current time 9:59 p.m. Hostile contact extreme. Commitment rating unreasonable. I wrapped the sleep mask around my eyes and laid my head against the boss's burning neck. For one glorious second, the entire battlefield watched me attempt to sleep on a raid boss. Then rest guard activated. My sleeping body reacted to every movement. When the stag twisted, I shifted. When it launched knives, I ducked. When it tried to ram a wall, my hand grabbed an antler and pulled just enough to ruin the angle. I was not riding the boss. I was sleepwalking it. Ava shouted something that sounded like a prayer and an insult at the same time. The stag crashed through 3 monster waves, destroying its own reinforcements, while I snored on its back like a disrespectful parasite. At dawn, it collapsed. Event cleared. Highest contribution, Caleb. Unique title acquired, well-rested menace. The city did not know how to react. Cole sat on the sidewalk, staring at the dead boss. You won by taking a nap. I lifted the sleep mask. Yes, that is the dumbest thing I have ever seen. Dumbest thing you have ever survived. He could not argue. That was when the rankings changed. Not a little. A lot. Before the marathon, I had been a weird support player with suspicious sleep habits. After the marathon, my name appeared in the city top 10. The guilds noticed. And that is when the real problems started. Power never attracts only fans. It attracts recruiters, parasites, rivals, and people who use the word destiny while holding knives. The strongest guild in the city sent an invitation. It was printed on expensive paper, which was impressive because paper had become rarer than good decisions. The messenger handed it to me like I should faint from honor. June looked over my shoulder. They want you as a strategic recovery specialist. Ava snorted. That means mascot. Cole crossed his arms. They want your method. I read the offer. Private room, guaranteed supplies, access to high-level dungeons, protection, a rank title. All I had to do was share every detail of my skill, follow guild commands, and participate in night raids when required. I threw the invitation into a campfire. The messenger gasped. I said my whole power is not participating in night raids when required. The guild did not enjoy rejection. 3 days later, they challenged our shelter's claim to the northern safe zone. Their leader, unnamed because I refused to remember people who monologue before breakfast, arrived with 30 players and a contract duel. If we lost, they took the safe zone. If we won, they left us alone. Cole wanted to fight. Ava wanted to snipe their healer before negotiations, which was illegal but emotionally understandable. June wanted to charge them a viewing fee. I accepted the duel myself. The enemy laughed when I stepped forward, holding a blanket roll and a thermos. The duel was set for midnight. Obviously, a trap. Their champions specialized in night combat. His skill grew stronger after sundown. Mine demanded that I be asleep. Everyone expected me to refuse. Instead, I smiled. Midnight is fine. Ava grabbed my sleeve. Caleb. Trust me. You say that before doing things that make my blood pressure file complaints. Trust me slightly. That day I did not fight, I did not train, I did not even argue. I prepared. I asked June for a portable bed frame, 6 alarm clocks, 1 bag of flour, 2 mirrors, a rope, and every pillow in inventory. She stared at me. Are we opening a hotel or committing a felony? Possibly both. At 9:30 p.m., I walked into the dueling arena. The enemy champion laughed, the crowd booed, the contract hovered above us, waiting for midnight to activate. I placed the bed in the center of the arena. Then I lay down. The guild erupted in outrage. A referee shouted that the duel had not started. I said perfect. Sleep attempt detected. Current time 9:47 p.m. Arena condition, hostile social pressure. Early sleep condition met. Dream training available. I slept before the duel began. Inside the dream, Iris was waiting with a fan, using it to hide her smile. You plan to duel while asleep. I plan to make him fight my preparation. Lazy. Strategic. Coward. Consistent. She laughed and opened a dream mirror showing the arena. My body was asleep in the center. The champion paced around furious. He could not attack until midnight because the contract would punish him. The crowd had no choice but to watch me sleep for 2 hours and 13 minutes. That alone was psychological warfare. By midnight, the champion was angry. Angry people are easy to read. The contract activated. He lunged at my sleeping body. Rest guard rolled me under the bed frame. The champion's blade hit the mattress and released the first trap. Flour burst into the air. The mirrors caught the arena lights. For 1 second, the whole floor became a cloud of sparkling confusion. The champion had night vision. Night vision hates bright, reflective flour. He stumbled. My sleeping body kicked an alarm clock. It rang, then another, then all 6, each at a different pitch. He tracked sound. Now he tracked too much sound. He slashed at the ringing clocks. Each broken clock triggered a rope release. Pillows fell from above. Not normal pillows. June had stuffed them with powdered sleep herbs from a dungeon plant. The champion inhaled, coughed, and slowed. The audience screamed. From inside the dream, I watched with Iris like we were at a sports bar. You are not fighting, she said. I am making him lose to a bedroom. Finally, the champion found me under the bed. He raised his sword. I woke up. Not fully, just enough. My hand reached out, grabbed the leg of the bed, and yanked. The frame collapsed. The mattress folded over him like a giant sandwich. I stood, stepped on the mattress, and pressed the broken clock hand to his throat. The contract declared my victory. The crowd went silent. Then June started clapping. Ava covered her face. Cole whispered, I hate that I'm impressed. The guild left, but not before their leader said I had insulted the dignity of combat. I told him dignity should stop scheduling duels after bedtime. From then on, smaller shelters started asking us for help. At first, I refused anything after 9 p.m. Then I learned to weaponize rescue work. Village 2 districts over was trapped by a monster that attacked only when people blinked. The local players had stayed awake for 2 days, staring at it until their eyes looked like boiled tomatoes. We arrived at sunset. The monster stood in the village square, thin as a scarecrow, with too many fingers and a face that moved when no one looked. It whispered, blink and die. Everyone froze. I walked into the square holding a blanket. Ava said no. I said yes. Caleb, if you blink, it attacks. Then I won't blink. You are holding a blanket. I am creating a controlled environment. I lay down, pulled the blanket over my face, and closed my eyes. The villagers screamed. The monster lunged. Rest guard activated. The thing attacked based on blinking, but under the blanket it could not see my eyes. It did not know whether I had blinked, slept, or ascended into irresponsible peace. Its rule broke. It hesitated. Ava shot it through the mouth. Cole cut its legs. June dropped a bathtub on it because she had been waiting weeks for a reason. Monster defeated. Special weakness discovered. Visual confirmation required. The villagers called me a hero. One child asked if sleeping was a superpower. I said yes, but only if you did it before 10 and ignored peer pressure. That was the first time I felt something dangerous. Not pride, pressure. People were starting to believe in me. Belief is heavier than mockery. When people mock you, you only have to prove them wrong. When people believe in you, you have to keep being right. By day 100, the system made everything stranger. 100-day sleep streak achieved. Reward acquired, nightmare immunity. Effect: nightmares cannot harm, possess, corrupt, or trap you. Additional effect: you may enter nightmare zones safely. Warning: things inside nightmares may notice. I woke up with cold moonlight on my hands. Iris appeared at the foot of my bed, not in a dream, but in the real room, translucent and annoyed. That reward should not exist, she said. I sat up. Good morning to you too. It is not morning. Then why are you in my room? Because the system has made you visible to old things. I looked at the clock. 5:55 a.m. Old things can wait until after breakfast. Iris rubbed her temples, which was impressive for a semi-divine dream being. Caleb, listen. Nightmare zones are where broken gods, dead dungeons, and failed worlds rot. Players enter them and come out hollow if they come out at all. But I have immunity. You have immunity to nightmares, not stupidity. That has never stopped me. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled just a little. That is what worries me. The first nightmare zone opened beneath the city hospital. Looked like a normal entrance at first, just a stairwell leading down, but anyone who stepped near it heard crying from people they had failed to save. The strongest guilds sealed the area. Healers refused to enter. Shadows leaked through the doors and infected patients with nightmare fever. Nightmare fever was awful. People slept and could not wake up. Their minds were trapped in dreams where the same injury happened forever. Ava's younger patients were inside. She did not ask me to help. She only stood outside the hospital, jaw clenched, hands curled around her bow. I knew that expression. It meant she was about to do something heroic and poorly scheduled. I checked the time. 8:10 p.m. Pack snacks, I said. She looked at me. You'll enter. Yes. Now. Only until 9:45, then I sleep inside. Ava stared like she wanted to argue, but could not decide which part was most insane. June handed me a backpack. I packed bandages, chalk, rope, jerky, and one stuffed rabbit. Why the rabbit? Morale or bait depends on the monster. Cole stepped forward. I'm coming too. I shook my head. Nightmare zone. I know. You are already emotionally complicated. He glared. Ava touched his arm. He's right. Cole looked offended, which was fair, because being called emotionally complicated by Ava was like being called wet by the ocean. I entered with Ava. The hospital stairwell stretched downward far longer than physics had approved. The walls pulsed like lungs. Patient room doors lined the stairs, each showing scenes from people's nightmares. A healer trapped in a room full of patients who turned to dust no matter what she did. A guard reliving the moment he abandoned a barricade. A child running through a hallway where every door led back to the same bed. Ava's face went pale. The zone whispered to her, offering a nightmare shaped like guilt. Mental resistance helped me hear the trick. Nightmares do not attack strength. They attack unresolved invoices in the soul. I slapped a piece of chalk onto the wall and drew a circle. Ava blinked. What are you doing? Marking realities. That circle is terrible. I am not an artist. I am a sleep professional. Every few steps I drew another circle. The nightmare tried to shift the hallway, but the circles remained. Reality hates being given labels. At 9:40 p.m., we reached the fever ward. Dozens of patients floated above beds, trapped in black sleep. A creature hung from the ceiling like a spider made of hospital sheets and whispers. Boss encountered the night nurse. Ability keeps victims asleep by feeding on regret. Ava raised her bow. I grabbed her wrist. No direct attack. Why? Look at the beds. Threads connected the boss to each patient. If we killed it wrong, the nightmare might snap back into them. The night nurse descended, smiling with too many teeth. It whispered that I had no right to rest while others suffered. That one almost worked. Then nightmare immunity turned the whisper into background noise, like a bad commercial. I checked the time. 9:59 p.m. I lay down on the nearest empty bed. Ava hissed, Caleb, this is not the moment. It is exactly the moment. Sleep attempt detected. Current location, nightmare zone. Danger level, absurd. Early sleep condition met. Nightmare immunity active. Dream incursion available. The night nurse lunged. I fell asleep. Instead of entering my training temple, I entered the nightmare network. Every patient's dream appeared as a room along a dark hallway. The night nurse moved through them, feeding. I could not kill it from outside without harming the victims. So I attacked its business model. I walked into the first nightmare and changed the ending. A healer who failed to save patients. I handed her a clipboard and told her she was off shift. The patients stopped turning to dust and started complaining about paperwork instead. Guard who abandoned a barricade. I placed a chair in front of him and said, "Sit, you are allowed to be tired." The nightmare had no prepared response for healthy boundaries. A child running through endless doors. I gave her June's stuffed rabbit. The rabbit grew to the size of a horse and kicked the hallway apart. Each changed dream cut a thread. The night nurse screamed. In the real world, Ava saw the thread snapping and understood. She did not attack the boss. She shot the threads I weakened, one by one, her arrows glowing in the dark ward. When the last patient woke, the boss fell from the ceiling. I woke up standing over it. It tried to whisper one final curse. I put a pillow over its face. Ava shot through the pillow. Nightmare zone cleared. Unique method, therapeutic sabotage. Reward acquired, dreams thread. I kept the dream thread. It looked like silver string and felt like a memory of rain. Iris said it could connect dream and reality for a moment if used carefully. June immediately wanted to sell it. Cole wanted to tie it to his sword. Ava wanted to use it for healing. I wanted to see if it could make a hammock. Iris said all of those ideas were offensive. Naturally, I tried the hammock first. The dream thread became one of my best tools. It could not create miracles by itself, but it could pull one thing from the edge of sleep into the waking world for a few seconds. A dream shield, a dream step, a dream copy of my hand moving before I did. The system called it a bridge between rest and action. I called it sleep Wi-Fi. Ava hated that phrase so much, she threatened to shoot me in the foot. With dream thread, I became harder to predict. I could dodge in two directions, one real and one dream. I could feint with a movement I had only imagined. I could leave a dream afterimage asleep on the ground, tricking enemies into attacking the wrong version of my laziness. One time, a dual opponent charged my sleeping afterimage so confidently that he fell into an open laundry chute. June charged admission for the replay. But every trick had a cost. The more I pulled dreams into reality, the more old things noticed. At night in the training temple, Iris looked worried more often. She showed me a black moon hanging behind the stars. "That is not the moon," she said. "What is it?" "A closed eye." "That sounds worse." "It is." The closed eye belonged to something buried beneath the system, a forgotten god of waking hunger, a being that hated sleep because sleep made mortals briefly free. Iris said my streak was lighting a beacon in places that should have stayed dark. I asked the obvious question. Can I defeat it by sleeping? She stared at me. Then she said I should never have encouraged you. The next major threat did not come from monsters. It came from players. The City Council of Guilds declared a mandatory war push against the Central Tower, a massive dungeon in the downtown ruins. They called it Operation Dawn Break, which was already suspicious because they scheduled the first assault at midnight. Their reasoning was simple. The Central Tower spawned monsters every night. Attack at night, reduce the waves. My reasoning was also simple. That was stupid. Not just regular stupid, certified, framed-on-the-wall stupid. The tower wanted us tired. Every scouting report showed mental effects increasing after dark. The boss patterns changed based on fatigue. The monster waves targeted healers first after midnight. When I argued this, the council laughed. One guild officer said, "The sleeper wants us to rest while the enemy grows." I said, "Yes, that is how not dying works." They ignored me. Cole, surprisingly, did not. He found me after the meeting, standing on a rooftop while the city prepared for war below. "You're not joining tonight," he said. "No. You know they'll blame you if it fails. They blame me when toast burns." He leaned against the railing. The lightning scars on his neck had faded since he started sleeping at least 6 hours. He would never admit I had helped him. He had instead claimed that rest was a martial discipline, because apparently calling it bedtime hurt his identity. "I'm going," he said. "I know. Someone has to keep them alive." That is a very Cole sentence. He smirked, "You'll come in the morning." At 5:30. Not 5. I need breakfast. He laughed, then winced because his ribs were still healing from a wyvern argument. At midnight, the council attacked. At 2 a.m., the sky above downtown turned purple. At 3 a.m., the retreat horns sounded. At 4 a.m., the first survivors arrived, carrying the wounded, eyes empty. At 5:30, I walked into the ruined downtown with Ava, June, and a thermos. Central Tower rose like a black needle. Around it, hundreds of players were trapped in sleepwalking combat. They fought monsters that were not there, swung at allies, and marched in circles toward the tower gates. Ava whispered, "The tower took their minds." I took a sip of coffee. "No," I said, "it took their tiredness and gave it instructions." The tower's first defense was a fatigue puppet field. Anyone exhausted became easy to control. I was rested. Ava had slept because I had blackmailed her with her own medical advice. June had slept because she claimed inventory worked better after beauty rest. Cole had not slept enough. He found him near a crater, fighting 3 illusions of himself while lecturing them about sword form. He was losing the argument. I stepped between them. The illusions struck. Mental resistance recognized the pattern. They were not solid. They only reacted when Cole acknowledged them. So I slapped Cole. Hard. He froze. What was that for? Stop respecting your hallucinations. The illusions flickered. Cole stared at them, then he turned away like they were boring. They vanished. He looked at me with wounded pride. You could have explained first. I could have, but this was faster. We pushed toward the tower. Every layer was a trick built for tired minds. Hallways looped unless you counted steps. Doors opened only when someone argued. Stairs grew steeper when you complained. So I did the opposite. I walked slowly, counted out loud, refused to debate doors, complimented the stairs. Ava muttered, "You are weaponizing emotional stability." Yes, June added, and customer service voice. Also yes. At the first gate, a giant stone face demanded a sacrifice. The council had apparently spent an hour arguing about who should give blood. Some had given memories, others had given skills. The gate fed on dramatic choices. I walked up and gave it a coupon June had found in a ruined mall. The face blinked. "This is not a sacrifice. It expired yesterday." June gasped behind me. "Caleb, that was for half-off batteries." "A true sacrifice." The gate opened. Because ancient magic loves symbolic value and hates terms and conditions. Inside, we found the Central Tower's core guardian, a knight made of alarm bells and rusted armor. Every step it took created a sound that forced sleep deprivation into the body. Even rested players began feeling days of exhaustion. Boss encountered, the waking knight. Ability, deny rest. My skill flickered. Healthy sleep schedule suppressed. Rest-based effects weakened. For the first time in months, I felt tired. Real tired. Heavy eyes, slow thoughts, the ugly fog of the all-nighter I had avoided like a plague. Cole grinned weakly. "Now what, bedtime king?" I looked at the night, then at the windows, then at the sun rising behind the tower. "Now," I said, "we make it morning." The knight attacked. Ava's arrows barely scratched it. Cole's lightning bounced off its bell armor. June dropped debris from inventory, but the bells rang louder with every hit. The sound was the problem. It denied rest by forcing the body into panic. So I needed silence. I pulled out the dream thread. In dream training, Iris had taught me to create one perfect moment of sleep, a tiny pocket where the world took a breath. I had never used it awake because she said it was dangerous. Iris was not present, which made it easier to ignore her. I wrapped the thread around my wrist and closed my eyes. The night's bells rang. I imagined my bedroom, not the real one, the ideal one, cool air, heavy blanket, clean sheets, no monsters, no guild politics, no Cole making dramatic statements near windows. The dream thread shimmered. For 1 second, that bedroom overlapped reality. The night's bells made no sound. Ava fired. Cole struck. June dropped the stolen bell of regret onto the knight's head, because June never forgets inventory assets. The armor cracked. I opened my eyes and ran forward. The knight raised its sword. I did not dodge. I threw my pillow. It hit the cracked bell inside its chest. Softly, pathetically, perfectly. The bell made one dull sound, like a spoon hitting oatmeal. The knight collapsed. Dungeon layer cleared. Rest suppression broken. Unique title upgraded, well-rested menace to rest to fire. The council took credit publicly because politics survived the apocalypse like cockroaches with speeches. But the players knew. They saw who walked out of the tower at sunrise, carrying a cracked pillow and a stolen coupon book. After that, my mockery changed into fear. Not from everyone. Ava still mocked me affectionately. June mocked me financially. Cole mocked me competitively. But strangers lowered their voices when I passed. Some thought I was secretly a god. Some thought I was manipulating the system. Some thought the pillow was legendary. That rumor caused problems. People started trying to steal my pillow. It was a normal pillow. I had replaced it twice. One thief broke into my room at 2 a.m. and stole the decoy pillow I kept on a chair. June had filled it with itching powder and a tiny bell. We found him outside, scratching and jingling, claiming he had been cursed by sleep itself. I let the rumor spread. A fake legend is still useful. I began carrying 3 pillows. One was normal. One contained smoke powder. One contained a folded metal plate that had stopped 2 arrows and a thrown fork. Enemies never knew which pillow they were dealing with. Neither did I sometimes, which kept life exciting. The next phase of my power was not a system reward. It was a lifestyle. I built rules. No major fight after 9:30 p.m. unless it helped my streak. No stimulant potions. No revenge missions without snacks. No emotional decisions within 1 hour of waking up, because that was sacred breakfast time. Everyone laughed at the rules until they saved us. During a raid on a sunken subway dungeon, the boss tried to split our party with fake emergency cries. Cole almost chased one. Ava almost chased another. I stopped them because it was 6:45 a.m. and none of us had eaten, which meant all emotional reactions were suspicious. We found the real path by following the smell of coffee from June's thermos, which had somehow leaked through a dimensional crack. During a siege by mirror beasts, the creatures copied our strongest visible fighters. They copied Cole's lightning, Ava's aim, June's inventory portals. Then they copied me. A mirror version of me appeared, holding a pillow, eyes calm. Everyone got nervous. Then the copy lay down. Because it had copied my current intention, not my strategy. I walked over and tied its shoelaces together. It woke up, tripped, and shattered against a wall. Cole looked at the shards. That thing had your intelligence. Clearly not, it missed bedtime context. The more I won, the angrier the world seemed to get. The system began offering harder events around late hours, like it was testing whether I would break my streak. 9:45 p.m. Emergency portal. 9:50 p.m. Boss ambush. 9:55 p.m. Citywide curse. Every time I found a loophole. Emergency portal at 9:45. I threw supplies to the defenders, gave orders, and slept in the command tent while using Dream Thread to watch the battlefield in fragments. Ava called it command napping. June trademarked the phrase on paper even though trademarks no longer existed. Boss ambush at 9:50. I baited the boss into chasing me onto a bridge, then told Cole to cut the supports at exactly 9:59 while I fell asleep in a hanging net below. The boss fell into the river. I got 8 hours. Citywide curse at 9:55. The curse caused nightmares if people slept. I entered first with nightmare immunity, found the curse seed, and replaced its nightmare script with a dream where everyone forgot their pants during a public speech. The entire city woke embarrassed but alive. Iris did not approve of my methods. "You are treating Divine Dreamcraft like a prank kit," she said one night. I was standing in dream training, surrounded by floating doors, holding a rubber chicken because Iris had told me to use any tool available, and I had decided to test her patience. Pranks are just tactics with jokes. You have been given access to sacred layers of reality, and I used them to save lives. You also made a nightmare god slip on a dream banana peel. It was attacking children. She opened her mouth, closed it, and looked away. "Fine," she said, "that one was acceptable." But beneath the humor, something was changing. Iris was fading. Each time I used Dream Thread, each time I entered nightmare zones, each time old things noticed me, Iris seemed less solid. She denied it, which meant it was serious. On day 200, I asked her directly, "What happens when the closed eye opens?" The temple went silent. The stars dimmed. Iris stood at the edge of the cloud sea, looking toward the black moon in the distance. "We'll wake everything that should remain asleep," she said. "Nightmares, dead gods, ancient hungers. And when they wake, mortals will not sleep again, not peacefully, not safely. Rest will become a doorway for invasion." That sounds bad. It is extinction wearing insomnia. I nodded. "Can I punch it?" "No." "Can Cole punch it with lightning?" No. Can June drop a building on it? I admire her ambition, but no. Can Ava shoot it in the eye? Iris paused, possibly, but not enough. I thought about it. What does it want? To wake. Then we make waking a bad deal. Iris looked at me like she regretted teaching me language. The next city event arrived, as if summoned by that conversation. Event Midnight Crown. Rule: a crown will appear at the center of the city at 12 a.m. Whoever wears it until dawn becomes ruler of the safe zone. Warning: crown amplifies desire. The council panicked. Guilds mobilized. Players wanted the crown, because of course they did. Nothing says good governance like wearing suspicious headwear from a system event at midnight. I wanted to ignore it. Then the system added one more line. Hidden condition available for holders of nightmare immunity. That got my attention. The crown appeared on top of the old courthouse, floating above a black pedestal. Hundreds of players gathered. Some came for power. Some came to stop others from getting power. Some came because crowds after apocalypse events always attract people with poor survival instincts. Cole wanted the crown destroyed. Ava wanted it secured. June wanted to rent it out. I wanted to know the hidden condition. At 11:45 p.m., we reached the courthouse roof. The crown floated there, thin and black, made of interlocked eyelids. Not metal. Eyelids. I said, absolutely not putting that on my head. Cole looked relieved. For once, we agree. Then the first guild charged. The roof became chaos. Players fought players, desire amplified even before contact. People shouted about destiny, leadership, justice, taxes, revenge, and one person who really wanted a bakery district. The crown whispered to everyone. It whispered to Cole that he could become the strongest. It whispered to Ava that she could protect everyone. It whispered to June that she could control all resources and finally make people label supply crates correctly. To me, it whispered something different. Wear me and you will never need sleep. I froze. That was the first temptation that actually scared me. Never needing sleep sounded like freedom to everyone else. To me, it sounded like death with extra steps. I reached into my bag and pulled out the decoy pillow filled with smoke powder. Then I threw it at the crown. The pillow exploded into gray smoke. Everyone coughed, the crown vanished in the cloud. I used dream thread to create a dream hand, grabbed the crown without touching it, and pulled it toward me. The hidden condition appeared. Bearer of nightmare immunity may challenge the crown's dream. Challenge type: sovereignty of rest. Enter now. I looked at the clock. 11:59 p.m. Of course. I had 1 minute. I sat down, crossed my legs, and closed my eyes. Ava shouted, "You are not sleeping on a courthouse roof during a civil war." I'm challenging monarchy. Sleep attempt detected. Current time 11:59 p.m. Early sleep condition not met. Warning: streak may be endangered. My heart dropped. I had been so focused on the crown that I had passed 10 p.m. For the first time in 200 days, my streak was at risk. The crown laughed inside my skull. That was its trap. It made everyone fight until midnight. It made the disciplined forget their rule. It offered power at the cost of the foundation. I almost panicked. Then I remembered the wording. Recover slightly more when sleeping before 10 p.m. Streak counted successful early sleep each cycle. It did not say I could not enter a dream after midnight, as long as I had already slept before 10. And I had. At 9:30 p.m., I had taken a 90-minute sleep in June's inventory closet while everyone else prepared weapons. I smiled. The system flickered. Prior early sleep logged. Streak protected. Dream challenge authorized. The crown stopped laughing. Inside the dream, I stood in a throne room made of clocks. A black figure sat on the throne, wearing the eyelid crown. It looked like a king who had never slept and blamed everyone else for the headache. It spoke with a voice like a commandment. Rest is weakness. I looked at the throne. That chair looks uncomfortable. Ambition does not recline. Sounds like a design flaw. Stood and the clocks began spinning. Every tick pulled at my desire. Power, recognition, safety, control, all the things I wanted but refused to say out loud. The crown did not attack with fear. It attacked with productivity. Showed me a future where I never slept, never stopped, never rested. I cleared every dungeon, saved every shelter, became stronger than Cole, smarter than June, more precise than Ava. People praised me, statues rose, the world survived because I never took a break. For half a second I wanted it. Then I looked closer. In that future my eyes were empty. Everyone depended on me. No one rested. The world survived by becoming a machine. I left. The crown paused. Why do you laugh? Because you think the final form of strength is overwork. I pulled out a dream pillow. The crown king recoiled like I had drawn a holy blade. Maybe I had. I walked up the clock steps. It attacked with visions of failure. I blocked with naps. It attacked with guilt. I countered with boundaries. It attacked with ambition. I said ambition could wait until morning. Then I placed the pillow on the throne. The throne transformed into a bed. The clock room slowed. The crown king screamed as blankets wrapped around it. No ruler rests, it shouted. Bad rulers don't, I said. The bed swallowed the throne. Outside on the courthouse roof, the crown cracked. Ava shot one piece. Cole sliced another. June collected the fragments before anyone else could, because even cursed eyelid jewelry had market value. Event cleared. Hidden condition achieved. Reward acquired, sovereignty of rest. Effect, allies within your declared rest zone recover faster and resist fatigue-based control. Title upgraded, Keeper of the 10 p.m. Law. That title haunted me, because the system did not understand comedy timing. The next morning, posters appeared around the safe zone, drawn by bored players. Some showed me heroically holding a pillow over a sunrise. Some showed me sleeping on a throne. One showed me as a giant alarm clock with abs. I ordered that one destroyed. June sold copies. The rest zone changed everything. Before, my sleep helped me. Now my rules could protect others. If I declared an area a rest zone and followed strict conditions, people inside recovered faster. Nightmares weakened, fatigue effects faded, mana poisoning slowed, even trauma accumulation eased, not erased, but softened enough for people to breathe. The conditions were ridiculous. Quiet hours. Warmth. Safety. No combat training after 9. No arguing near sleeping people. No dramatic speeches in the rest zone. Cole violated the last rule daily. The system punished him with mild static shocks. This improved my quality of life. He turned the old library into the first real rest zone. June handled supplies. Ava arranged patients. Cole guarded the entrance at night, pretending it was because he wanted to fight monsters and not because he cared. Iris watched from the dream side, slowly regaining color as more people slept peacefully. For a while, things were almost good, which meant disaster was loading. It began with the sleepless. Players who had rejected rest for too long started changing. At first it was small, red eyes, twitches, laughing at nothing. Then their skills mutated. Fire users burned without flame. Sword users cut memories. Healers stitched wounds closed with pain still inside. They called themselves awakened beyond sleep. They said rest was a chain, fatigue was proof of devotion, pain was fuel. I called them what they were. Dangerous idiots with a branding department. Their leader was not named because he wanted a name too badly. He wore bone armor, floated 3 inches above the ground, and spoke like every sentence had been marinated in thunder. He attacked our library at 2 a.m. Of course. The sleepless came in waves, chanting about eternal vigilance. They carried weapons made of corrupted mana and had the wide-eyed confidence of people who had not made a good decision in months. Cole stood at the entrance, sword drawn, finally. Ava took position on the second-floor balcony. June sealed the supply rooms. I woke to the alarm, checked the time, and felt personally insulted. 2 a.m., I muttered, rude. The rest zone shook. The sleepless aura attacked the rules directly, trying to turn sleep into nightmares. Patients stirred. Children cried. The old library shelves rattled. I could fight awake, but not at full strength. My best tools came from rest. So I made a choice. I walked to the center of the library in pajamas. A sleepless warrior burst through a window. Ava shot him before he landed. I raised my hand and declared, emergency bedtime protocol. The system responded. Rest zone rule expansion requested. Condition, zone leader must sleep under active siege. Benefit, allies receive rest guard echo. Risk, if sleep is broken, zone collapses. Cole shouted, that sounds terrible. It sounds efficient. It sounds like you want to nap while we do the work. That is also true. I lay down on a couch between two bookshelves. June threw a blanket over me with the expression of a battlefield nurse and an annoyed hotel manager. I slept. The rest zone deepened. Every ally inside gained a faint rest guard echo, not enough to fight for them, but enough to protect against fatal interruptions. Ava's body ducked before a corrupted arrow reached her. Cole's foot shifted away from a ground spike before he saw it. June turned at the exact moment a shelf would have crushed her, and instead inventoried the shelf mid-fall. The Sleepless were furious. Their whole philosophy was that rest made people weak. Now sleeping people were harder to kill. That is the kind of argument violence struggles to win. Inside the dream, I stood in the library's dream version. The shelves reached into the stars. Every sleeping person appeared as a small lamp. The sleepless corruption crawled through the aisles like black ink. Iris stood beside me, holding a spear made of moonlight. "You are defending a sanctuary," she said. I was defending my nap. Do not ruin the moment. The sleepless leader appeared in the dream, taller than before, made of red veins and broken alarm clocks. "You hide in dreams," he said. "You broke into a library at 2 a.m., I replied. "No one here has moral high ground, but I am closer." He attacked. His power was wakefulness turned violent. Every strike tried to yank me out of sleep. Every shout carried urgency, panic, crisis. "Wake up. Move. Do more. Rest later." There is no later. I almost believed it. Because that is how the apocalypse speaks. Always urgent, always burning, always one more thing. Then I saw the lamps behind me. People sleeping because I had made space for it. Not quitting. Recovering. I wrapped dream thread around the library dream and pulled. In the waking world, the shelves shifted. Not physically at first, in meaning. The library is a place for quiet, a place where noise is punished by stares older than law. The rest zone amplified that rule. The sleepless chanted. The library answered with silence. Their voices vanished. They tried to shout, but nothing came out. Cole saw them panic and smiled like the universe had handed him dessert. He moved through them like lightning through wet paper. Ava's arrows pinned weapons to walls without killing when possible. June opened inventory pits beneath attackers and dropped them into the basement, where they landed in piles of old magazines and regret. Inside the dream, the leader weakened. Without his voice, his urgency lost shape. I walked forward carrying a pillow. He looked genuinely afraid. "Do not," he whispered silently somehow. I pressed the pillow into his chest. "Sleep on it." The dream collapsed. In the real world, the sleepless leader fell to his knees and passed out for the first time in months. Event cleared. Sanctuary defended. Rest zone evolved, shelter of recovery. New passive enforced quiet. The entire library became sacred territory. Also, anyone shouting after 9 p.m. tripped over nothing. June called it the best security system ever invented. The defeated sleepless did not all become friends. Some ran, some cursed us, some woke up crying because they finally felt how tired they had been. We treated them anyway. Ava insisted. Cole complained but guarded them. June charged them for blankets. I wanted to call that exploitative, but the blankets were very nice. As my influence grew, so did the challenges. Dungeons began adapting to me. One spawned as a reverse hotel where every bed was a mimic and every alarm clock was a bomb. I cleared it by sleeping on the floor and making the mimics compete for my attention until they attacked each other. One boss created a time loop from 9:59 p.m. to 10:01 p.m., trying to trap me between success and failure. I solved it by falling asleep at 9:58:59 while June threw a clock through the loop anchor. The system considered my effort aggressively punctual. Another dungeon was called the Palace of Endless Coffee. The boss was a barista demon who gave players infinite energy at the cost of their future recovery. Everyone was tempted. Cole drank one sip and punched through a wall. Ava smelled it and started aiming at the concept of exhaustion. June asked for wholesale pricing. I refused. The barista demon mocked me. "Do you fear power?" I looked at the cup. It steamed with liquid lightning and bad habits. "No," I said, "I fear dependency with foam art." The demon attacked with espresso meteors. I used a dream shield shaped like a mug lid, reflected the meteors into the pastry display, and destroyed its morale. Then I slept on the counter at 9:55 while it screamed about customer disrespect. I dawned, the palace surrendered, and became a normal cafe inside our rest zone. We limited everyone to 2 cups. Cole called this tyranny. The system called it responsible governance. The cafe victory should have made people trust me. It did not. What it actually did was make every ambitious guild leader realize that my sleep rule was not a joke anymore. Before that, I had been a weird survivor with good timing and a suspicious relationship with pillows. After the Palace of Endless Coffee became part of our safe zone, I became an economic problem. People were not just resting. They were recovering. And recovered players did not buy emergency stimulants, rage potions, curse suppressants, or those disgusting monoprotein blocks that tasted like someone had compressed chalk in sadness. A week later, representatives from the larger guilds arrived at the library gates. They wore matching armor, matching scowls, and matching dark circles under their eyes. The kind of dark circles that say, "I have not slept in 4 days, but I did write a motivational speech about discipline." Their leader was called the coordinator by his people, which told me everything I needed to know. Nobody chooses a title like that unless they have already lost the ability to enjoy soup. He stood outside my rest zone at noon and demanded an audit. I said, "Of the blankets. Of your authority. Those are different departments." He claimed my rest zone was weakening the city. He said players were getting soft. He said my quiet hours reduced monster kill counts. He said our refusal to grind after 9 p.m. was selfish because the apocalypse required sacrifice. Behind him, his soldiers nodded aggressively, because exhausted people love speeches that justify why they feel terrible. Cole gripped his sword. Ava's fingers moved near her bow. June stepped forward with a clipboard, so thick it qualified as blunt weaponry. I raised one hand. The clever thing about a fight is that people expect you to answer force with force. The really clever thing is making them fight a spreadsheet. June opened our records. Survival rates, recovery times, mana poisoning reduction, nightmare fever cases, patrol efficiency before and after regular rest, average injury severity, monster kill counts per healthy player compared to sleep-deprived teams. The coordinator stared at the numbers like they were a foreign monster species. June smiled. "We are not killing less. We are dying less while killing the same amount. It is called not being stupid." His jaw tightened. When facts failed, he reached for the ancient weapon of every insecure leader. He asked for a public trial. The system heard him. Because the system had the manners of a bored gambler. Event triggered, productivity tribunal. Public challenge accepted. Condition, rest guild versus grind guild. Objective, complete assigned rescue, crafting, combat and defense tasks over 48 hours. Restriction, points lost for collapsed participants. Special note, sleep is permitted but considered idle time. The coordinator smiled. His people cheered. Cole groaned, "The system really hates us." "No," I said, "the system loves comedy." The tribunal began at sunrise. Both sides received identical objectives: clear 3 monster nests, rescue trapped survivors from a collapsed station, repair a broken mana barrier, deliver medical supplies across infected streets, defend the central road from a wave at midnight. The Grind Guild brought 100 players. I brought 22. The crowd laughed. Then they laughed harder when they saw my team loading bedding into June's inventory. Someone shouted that I was going camping. I waved at them because technically, yes. The coordinator's strategy was obvious. He split his team into squads and started grinding everything at maximum speed. They sprinted into monster nests, burned mana like fireworks, and completed the first wave of objectives faster than us. The scoreboard made us look pathetic. Grind Guild, 180 points. Rest Guild, 40 points. Cole looked at me. "I hate being patient." "That is why you are bad at traps." "I am excellent at traps. I trigger them before they hurt anyone else." "That is not what that means." For the first 6 hours, I barely fought. I watched. I marked routes, I recorded monster behavior. I noted which squads overused mana. I watched the coordinator push his healers from one injury cluster to the next. I saw his archers aim drift. I saw his tanks forget shield angles. I saw his mages begin muttering to themselves, not because they were casting, but because exhaustion was chewing holes in their thoughts. At noon, my team stopped for lunch. The audience booed. At 1 p.m., we cleared our first monster nest. Slowly, cleanly, no serious injuries. At 3 p.m., we rescued the trapped survivors from the station. The Grind Guild had reached them first, but they had blown open the wrong entrance, waking a nest of tunnel worms. They earned more combat points, but lost 3 players to collapse and 2 to panic frenzy. We entered through a maintenance shaft I had found while pretending to nap beside the station map. I say pretending because I was actually using dream training to walk the layout in my sleep, while my body rested under a broken ticket booth. It looked lazy. It was reconnaissance with drooling. Inside the dream version of the station, I saw the safest tunnel as a blue thread. When I woke, I guided Ava through the shaft, had Cole cut only the hinges that would not echo, and made June inventory a jammed door without disturbing the worms. The survivors came out alive. The scoreboard updated. Grind Guild 310 points. Rest Guild 220 points. Penalty Grind Guild participant collapse X5. The audience got quieter. By sunset, the coordinator's people were still ahead. They had completed more tasks, they had fought more monsters, they had shouted more slogans. They also looked like ghosts wearing armor. At 8:30 p.m., I ordered my team back to the rest camp. The crowd exploded. The coordinator laughed. "You are surrendering." "No," I said, "we are entering Phase 2. Phase 2 is bedtime." "Yes." He looked around like he was waiting for someone else to explain the joke. There was no joke. At 9 p.m., June unfolded an entire sleeping camp from her inventory. Tents, blankets, warm stones, soup, earplugs, defensive charms, coal patrol routes, Ava sight lines, a portable rest zone circle painted on canvas. People stared as a battlefield turned into the world's most heavily defended sleepover. The system flickered. Temporary rest zone established. Tribunal condition recognized. Participants sleeping during challenge count as idle. Hidden metric unlocked, sustainable performance. The coordinator's smile twitched. I lay down at 9:45. The entire crowd booed me again. I pulled the blanket up and said, "Good night." Then I entered dream training. This was where the tribunal broke. Other players thought sleep meant absence. For me, sleep was the planning room. In the dream, the city became a game board. Monster nests glowed red. Barrier cracks glowed yellow. Survivor locations pulsed blue. Enemy fatigue trails dragged behind the Grind Guild like smoke. Iris appeared beside me. "You are treating a divine rest path like a logistics simulator," she said. "I am honoring it through efficiency. You are moving tiny dream figures with a spoon. It is a command spoon." For 2 hours I planned the next day. Every route, every recovery rotation, every safe fallback. I placed Cole where surprise attacks would be funniest. I placed Ava where one arrow could solve 3 problems. I placed June where impossible storage crimes could become tactics. Then I trained. Dream training let me repeat a movement until my mind understood it, even if my body still needed waking practice. I used it to master a trick I had been developing. Rest step. The idea was stupid. Naturally, it worked. Most fighters move by pushing their bodies harder. I moved by letting tension disappear at exactly the right moment. A tiny drop in effort, a micro-release, like my body forgot to resist gravity and slipped through the gap between attacks. In dreams, I practiced dodging 1,000 blades by relaxing instead of reacting. At 5:55 a.m., I woke before the alarm. My body felt clear. My mind felt sharpened. My hair looked terrible, but power always has a cost. The Grind Guild had not slept. They had kept working through the night, determined to build an unbeatable lead. Their score was higher. Their eyes were empty. Midnight defense had nearly broken them. They had earned points, but the wave had dragged on for hours and their mistakes had multiplied. Friendly fire, missed blocks, mana backlash, arguments over leadership. 2 players tried to duel each other because one stole the other's energy drink. At dawn, the scoreboard looked like this. Grind Guild 620 points. Rest Guild 260 points. Penalty pending. The crowd thought we had lost. I stretched. Then the second day began. We moved like a knife. Not a dramatic anime knife with flames and screaming. A kitchen knife in the hands of someone who slept well and read the instructions. Cole cleared the east nest in 16 minutes because I sent him through a wall instead of the entrance. Ava destroyed the queen monster's command crystal from 3 streets away because I had dreamed the angle. June delivered medical supplies by opening inventory doors between rooftops and dropping packages with handwritten apology notes. I entered the broken mana barrier last. It was a dome of cracked blue light surrounding the central road. Repairing it normally required 6 mages feeding mana into 5 pillars for 30 minutes. The Grind Guild had tried brute force and overloaded 2 pillars. I walked up carrying a pillow. Barrier spirit appeared as a child made of static, crying sparks. Everyone expected a fight. I asked the spirit when it had last rested. Mages around me looked offended, because asking a magic barrier about its sleep schedule is apparently not standard procedure. The spirit sniffled. It had been active since the apocalypse started. No shutdown, no maintenance, no quiet. So I declared the barrier a temporary rest target. The system hesitated. Object lacks biological sleep function. Conceptual fatigue detected. Rest protocol possible. I placed the pillow against the central pillar. The barrier dimmed. For 10 terrifying seconds, the whole safe zone was exposed. The crowd screamed. The coordinator pointed at me and shouted that I had doomed everyone. Then the barrier exhaled. I do not know how a barrier exhaled. It did anyway. The cracks sealed from the inside. The blue light turned soft gold for one breath, then stabilized stronger than before. Objective complete. Bonus barrier restored without mana cost. Hidden achievement, let the wall take a nap. June immediately asked if we could charge walls for bedding. I told her not to monetize architecture. She wrote it down as a maybe. By afternoon, our score passed the grind guild. Not because we worked harder. Because they started falling apart. The tribunal's penalty system activated. Collapse participant, -20. Mana poisoning, -15. Friendly fire, -10. Strategic incoherence, -25. Unnecessary speech during active threat, -5. Cole demanded that last penalty be applied to the coordinator retroactively. The system ignored him, which was mercy. The coordinator snapped at 4 p.m. He ordered his remaining players into a forbidden dungeon that had not been part of the challenge. He wanted bonus points. He wanted a miracle. He wanted to prove rest was weakness before reality finished proving him wrong. The dungeon opened beneath the old arena. Its name appeared in red. Dungeon the Deadline Pit. Rule tasks spawn continuously. Failure to complete tasks increases pressure. Rest disabled. Exit opens after final task. Estimated duration unknown. The coordinator charged in. His people followed because exhausted loyalty is just fear with uniforms. The system added a tribunal notice. Rescue opportunity available. Entering forfeits current laid if unsuccessful. Ava looked at me, we cannot leave them. Cole said we absolutely can, but we will not. June sighed and started packing emergency soup. I checked the sky. It was 4:17 p.m. Enough time. We entered the Deadline Pit. The inside looked like an office designed by demons who had heard of productivity but not chairs. Endless desks stretched into darkness. Floating task boards screamed instructions. Monsters in neckties crawled between cubicles. A giant clock hung overhead, ticking faster whenever someone hesitated. Task defeat 10 clerks. Task sort cursed files. Task carry stones. Task solve equation. Task apologize to your childhood regrets. The grind guild was already drowning. Every completed task spawned 2 more. Every mistake tightened invisible pressure around their bodies. The coordinator kept shouting orders, making it worse. I saw the trick instantly. The dungeon did not punish laziness. It punished panic. I sat down at a desk. Ava stared Caleb. I am reading the employee handbook. There is no handbook. There is always a handbook in a cursed office. I opened the top drawer. There it was. June whispered, that is disgusting. The handbook explained the dungeon's hidden rule in language, so boring it almost killed Cole on contact. Tasks are infinite until a participant demonstrates authorized work-life balance. Breaks must be requested through Form 10B. Form 10B available upon completion of 3 unnecessary tasks and 1 act of self-respect. I smiled. The coordinator was trying to win by completing everything. That was impossible. The exit required refusing the premise. I grabbed a cursed pen and filled out 3 useless forms: request for chair height adjustment, request for emotional support stapler, request for permission to ignore motivational poster. Then came the act of self-respect. I walked to the center of the office, stood beneath the giant clock, and said, I am taking my break. The dungeon froze. Every task board turned toward me. The coordinator screamed, there are people dying. Yes, I said, because you keep accepting new tasks from a hole in the ground. I submitted Form 10B. A bell chimed. Break authorized. Duration 15 minutes. All tasks paused. The entire deadline pit went silent. Players collapsed into chairs. The pressure vanished. The clerk stopped attacking and began organizing files. One monster offered Cole water. Cole accepted, then looked betrayed by his own thirst. But the dungeon was not defeated. The giant clock cracked open. A boss crawled out wearing a suit made of calendars. It had many arms, each holding a stamp that said urgent. You cannot pause the inevitable, it said. I checked the time. 5:02 p.m. Plenty of time for boss violence and dinner. The deadline boss attacked with stamp commands. Every stamp created an obligation. Dodge this, block that, save them, hurry, decide, choose, fail. If a stamp touched you, your body tried to obey. Cole got stamped with finish the fight and immediately charged straight at the boss, which was exactly the trap. Ava shot the stamp off his shoulder before he got crushed. June got stamped with optimized resources and began sorting weapons by resale value under combat conditions. I let one stamp hit me. The command appeared on my chest. Do everything yourself. For a second, my knees buckled. That one was dangerous. Because I wanted to. The more people trusted me, the easier it became to think I had to carry all of them. Every rest zone, every rescued player, every nightmare, every stupid cursed cafe policy. The stamp sank deeper. I breathed out. Then I used rest step. Not with my feet. With my responsibility. I released the tension. The command slipped off me like a blanket falling from a bed. No, I said, I delegate. I pointed at Cole, hit the left leg. At Ava, pin the stamps. At June, steal the calendars. At the rescued grind players, sit down and recover before your heroic loyalty becomes a medical expense. The boss faltered. Its power came from making one person accept too much urgency, but my entire build was based on rejecting fake urgency. Cole shattered the left leg. Ava pinned 6 stamp hands to a wall. June inventoried the calendars, which caused 3 months of deadlines to vanish from the boss's torso. I walked in close and placed a form on its chest. Request denied, false emergency. Then I punched it with a dream pillow. That sounds soft. It was not. The pillow contained every nap I had refused to be ashamed of. The boss exploded into paper. Dungeon cleared. Reward break authority. Effect once per day, pause a non-lethal pressure effect for 15 minutes within a declared rest zone. Bonus work-life balance recognized. The tribunal ended at sunset. Our score was not just higher. It was embarrassing. Rest Guild 1,140 points. Grind Guild 280 points. Penalty applied, preventable stupidity. The system actually used those words. I respected it for once. The coordinator stood in the center of the arena, shaking with humiliation and caffeine withdrawal. I expected him to attack. Instead, he collapsed. Not dramatically. Just folded like laundry. His people stared. For the first time, the crowd did not laugh at me. They looked at the collapsed players, then at my rested team, then at the portable camp June was already charging people to enter. Someone asked if we had space. June said blankets are extra. I said blankets are included. June looked wounded. The tribunal made my rest zone famous across the city. Which was terrible. Fame is just a monster spawn beacon with compliments. Within days, people arrived from distant districts asking for help. Some brought wounded relatives, some brought cursed artifacts. One group brought a screaming refrigerator that predicted nightmares. June bought it immediately. Then the system introduced rankings. Because apparently society had not suffered enough. City Ranking Board unlocked. Ranks determined by contribution, combat power, influence, territory stability, and special achievements. Cole appeared near the top for combat. Ava appeared near the top for precision. June appeared in a category called economic distortion. I appeared in first place under support influence. Then beside my name, the system added a public note. Combat classification, pillow adjacent. The mockery returned instantly. Players who had not seen me fight said support rankings did not count. They called me a healer with a bedtime fetish. They claimed Cole, Ava, and June carried me. They said my rest zone was useful, sure, but a real leader had to dominate in direct combat. I wanted to ignore it. Unfortunately, the ranking board did not. Challenge issued automatically. Top support influence holder must demonstrate survival capability. Event 1 versus many exhibition. Time 8 p.m. Opponents volunteers. Restriction no lethal force. Reward public recognition adjustment. Cole grinned so hard it looked painful. You have to fight a crowd. I hate democracy. Ava checked the opponent list. There are 83 volunteers. June looked offended. Only 83. We need better marketing. At 8 p.m., I stood in the arena wearing simple armor and carrying one pillow. The crowd roared. Volunteers entered in waves. Swords, spears, shields, magic beast forms, summoned weapons, all eager to prove the bedtime guy was only strong when asleep. They were half right. So I made them sleepy. Not with magic. With tactics. The arena lights were too bright, so I asked June to inventory the reflective panels. The temperature dropped slightly. Ava shot holes in the upper vents to create a soft breeze. Cole stood outside the arena eating loudly, which had no tactical purpose, but it distracted several opponents. I walked slowly. Rest step made me look lazy. Attacks missed by inches. Spear passed where my ribs had been because I relaxed my shoulder and let gravity borrow me. A fireball flew over my head because I yawned and bent at the exact wrong-looking angle. A shield user charged, and I stepped aside so gently he continued running until he hit another volunteer. The crowd laughed at first. Then they stopped. Because none of them could touch me. I was not faster than them. I was less tense. That is a humiliating thing to lose to. The first wave collapsed from overcommitting. The second tried teamwork. I used their teamwork against them. When 3 swordsmen attacked together, I moved only enough to make one block the other 2. When a mage cast a binding circle, I sat down just outside it and looked concerned for his career. When a summoner called a wolf made of smoke, I scratched behind its ears with dream thread and it lay down. The summoner shouted, "That is my familiar. It is tired." By 8:40, half the volunteers were on the ground. Not injured. Embarrassed. The final wave brought the serious fighters, people with actual skill. They had watched my timing and adjusted. They attacked less, waited more, and tried to corner me. Good. That meant they were learning. Unfortunately for them, I had also learned. I threw my pillow into the air. Everyone looked up. Only for half a second. That was all Ava needed. Her arrow struck the pillow, bursting it into harmless white feathers across the arena. The volunteers flinched. I moved through the feathers like fog. Dream thread attached to each feather, not enough to control them fully, but enough to blur positions and hide my steps. For 12 seconds, the arena filled with soft white confusion. I tapped wrists, ankles, armor straps, weapon grips, pressure points Iris had taught me in dreams while insulting my posture. When the feathers cleared, the final wave stood frozen. Then their belts fell off. June covered her eyes with one hand and peeked through her fingers with professional interest. The crowd lost its mind. Event cleared. Survival capability demonstrated. Combat classification updated, unconventional control. Public title updated, The Pillow Menace. I stared at the screen. No, the system did not change it. For 3 days, children in the rest zone chased each other with pillows, yelling that they were menaces. Cole laughed until enforced quiet tripped him into a laundry basket. The ranking board gave me recognition, but recognition brought a worse problem. Worship, not normal appreciation. Actual worship. A group of exhausted survivors began leaving offerings at the library. Warm milk, clean socks, tiny carved pillows. One person wrote a prayer asking me to bless their nap. Iris found this deeply concerning. I found it deeply embarrassing. June found it profitable. I told everyone I was not a god. The system immediately created a minor faith metric. Emergent concept detected, rest devotion. Faith trickle negligible. Possible path interaction unknown. Iris looked at the notification like it had slapped her. Do not accept worship lightly, she said. I am trying not to accept socks. Faith reshapes the dream. Enough belief could turn your rest zone into something beyond mortal skill. That sounds useful. It is also dangerous. Gods do not sleep the way mortals do. Forgotten gods become hungry when remembered incorrectly. I looked toward the black moon. The closed eye was larger now. So the eye could use this. Yes. That night, I entered the dream temple and found new doors along the cloud sea. Each door had a small offering in front of it, a sock, a cup, a pillow charm, a child's drawing of me as a heroic alarm clock fighting a dragon with a blanket. I wanted to burn that one. Iris stopped me. It is sincere. It has my face on a clock body. Sincerity is often cruel. Beyond the doors, I heard prayers. Not spoken like church prayers. More like tired thoughts. Please let my brother stop shaking. Please let the nightmares skip us tonight. Please let morning come. Please let the bed stay safe. The weight of it hit harder than any boss stamp. These people were not worshiping me because I looked divine. I had bed hair most mornings. They were worshiping rest because the world had stolen it. I could not reject that, but I could redirect it. I gathered the offerings in the dream and built a small lantern. Not a throne, not an altar, a night light. The system responded. Faith root modified. Authority refused, godhood. Authority accepted, guardian symbol. Reward, nightlight covenant. Effect, fear in the rest zone decreases when sleepers trust dawn will come. Warning, covenant may attract forgotten gods. Iris stared at me. You refused ascension by making a lamp. I am not qualified for godhood. I barely manage quiet hours. She laughed. It was the first real laugh I had heard from her. Then the temple shook. The black moon opened a little. Just enough for one closed eyelid to twitch. A whisper crawled through the dream. Let them worship exhaustion instead. The next morning, every ranking board in the city changed. A new faction appeared. The Waking Doctrine. Its members were not just sleepless. They were players, merchants, healers, even some rescued survivors who had started believing pain made them pure. They wore white bands under their eyes to show they had rejected dreams. They did not attack with weapons at first. They attacked with slogans. Rest makes you weak. Sleep steals progress. Dreams are traps. Only the awake deserve mourning. Posters appeared on walls. Rumors spread that people inside my rest zone became dependent. Someone claimed I controlled sleepers' dreams. Someone else claimed June's blankets were cursed, which caused sales to double because apocalypse consumers make strange choices. The doctrine's real move came 3 nights later. They released insomnia bells across the city. Tiny silver bells hidden in alleys, rooftops, sewers, and market stalls. Each bell rang too softly to hear while awake, but loud enough to scrape dreams raw. People arrived at the library with red eyes and trembling hands. Our rest zone weakened. The bells were outside its boundary, poisoning sleep before people reached us. Ava found one bell and shot it. It split into 10 smaller bells. Cole tried to cut another. It screamed until pigeons fell out of the sky. June inventoried one and immediately threw it back out because her inventory started humming lullabies in reverse. Brute force would not work. So I slept. At 9:15 p.m., earlier than usual, I entered the dream city. Every insomnia bell appeared as a small silver insect clinging to a web above the streets, thousands of them, each one vibrating with stolen urgency. Iris stood beside me, pale again. The waking doctrine is being guided, she said. By the eyes. By something looking through it. I did not like that answer. I reached for dream thread, but the bells scattered whenever I touched one. They were designed to multiply when attacked. So I did not attack. I listened. The bells rang with one message. Wake up, wake up, wake up. I changed the rhythm. Not with power, with memory. I thought of the library at 10 p.m., the lamps dimming, June grumbling over folded blankets, Cole pretending not to yawn, Ava checking windows one last time, children breathing slowly, the cafe closing, the barrier exhaling, the nightlight glowing in the dream temple. Then I hummed. Badly. Iris looked horrified. Is that a lullaby? It is supposed to be. You have weaponized tone deafness. The first bell hesitated. It missed a beat. Then another. Then another. Dream thread did not grab the bells. It connected them. I turned their network against itself. If they were designed to spread wakefulness, then a shared rhythm could spread calm. I did not silence the bells. I made them ring bedtime. Across the city, people heard nothing. But in their dreams, the scraping changed into a soft chime. The bells stopped multiplying. The waking doctrine panicked. Their hidden agents tried to collect the bells, but June had predicted that and placed inventory doors beneath the main routes. They fell into padded storage pits labeled confiscated nonsense. Ava shot the runners' shoelaces together. Cole stood at the North Road with his sword drawn and said, "No one disrupts my sleep schedule except me." That was the moment I realized Cole had been converted. Not spiritually. Worse, habitually. By dawn, the insomnia bells were ours. June wanted to sell them as gentle alarm chimes. I said absolutely not. She sold them as decorative paperweights. Event cleared. Citywide sleep disruption neutralized. Nightlight covenant strengthened. New technique acquired, lullaby network. Effect existing sound-based mental interference can be softened if a rest rhythm is established. Penalty user must hum. I demanded the system remove the penalty line. It refused. The next week, the waking doctrine challenged us directly. Not at night. At noon. That was how I knew they were learning. They captured the Eastern bathhouse, which mattered more than it sounds. Clean water, hot steam, wound washing, laundry access. June said losing it would set civilization back 6 months and everyone's smell back forever. Doctrine turned the bathhouse into a purification fortress. Steam vents carried insomnia curses. The floor was slick with wakefulness oil. Mirrors showed people their failures if they closed their eyes. The leader of the attack waited inside the main hall. No name. Just a woman in white bands with a spear made of clock hands and the calm expression of someone who had slept last week and hated herself for it. She said I had made humanity soft. I said you stole a bathhouse. She said comfort was corruption. I said you stole a bathhouse. She said the awake would inherit the broken world. I said you stole a bathhouse. Even Cole told me to vary my argument. I refused. Some crimes define themselves. The fight inside the bathhouse was ridiculous. Ava could not shoot cleanly because steam bent her sight lines. Cole kept slipping on cursed oil and getting angrier, which made him slip harder. June tried to inventory the steam, failed, then argued with physics. I could not establish a rest zone because the mirrors punished closed eyes. Every time I blinked, they flashed memories of mistakes, people I failed to save, times I almost broke my streak, the temptation of the crown, the collapsed coordinator, Ava overworking, Cole bleeding, June smiling too widely when scared. The mirror curse wanted me awake through guilt. So I used the bathhouse against it. Bathhouses are not just for cleaning. They are for release. I stepped into the hottest pool fully clothed. Everyone stared. June shouted, "That outfit is not laundry rated." I sank until the water reached my shoulders. The mirror curse flashed harder. I breathed out. Steam wrapped around me. Rest was not always sleep. Sometimes rest was letting the body stop bracing. The system flickered. Rest concept expanded. Recovery method recognized, cleansing stillness. Temporary technique, steam nap. Condition, user must remain calm while being attacked. The woman with the clock hand spear attacked immediately. I did not dodge. I let rest guard echo shift me just enough that the spear pierced my sleeve, not my arm. I stayed in the water. She attacked again. I breathed. She stabbed. I floated. She swept. I sank. The more frantic she became, the calmer the room grew. The mirrors fogged. Ava's sight lines cleared. Cole stopped slipping because June finally inventoried the cursed oil by declaring it a liquid asset. I still hate that joke. The doctrine leader tried one final curse. She raised the spear and shouted that guilt should keep heroes awake. I looked at my reflection in the fogged mirror. Tired, scared, still here. Guilt can visit, I said. It does not get to move in. Then I splashed her. Not dramatically. Like a child in a pool. The water hit her clock hand's spear. Steam nap converted the bathhouse heat into a wave of cleansing rest. The spear rusted instantly. The white bands under her eyes turned gray. Her followers dropped their weapons as the insomnia curse washed off them. Cole stared at me. You won by taking a bath. A tactical bath. June pointed at the restored hot water system and whispered, "We are going to be rich." Event cleared. Purification fortress reclaimed. Rest concept expanded, hygiene recovery. Rest zone upgrade available, bathhouse annex. That was how our safe zone became the first apocalypse settlement, with mandatory quiet hours and optional spa packages. People mocked us less after that. Not because they respected the philosophy. Because clean, rested fighters with good soup kept winning. And every victory pushed me closer to day 300. On day 300, Iris told me the closed eye was closer. The black moon in the dream sky had grown. I could see eyelashes now, each one a nightmare zone. The sleepless were only the first symptom, she said. The eye is waking through them. What happens when it fully opens? Every rest zone becomes a target. Every sleeper becomes a doorway. Every dream becomes a battlefield. I watched the black moon. For once, I did not joke. Then I need the next streak reward. Iris looked at me. 365 days. 65 left. The eye will not wait politely. Then we make it. That became the longest 65 days of my life. Every force in the ruined city seemed designed to break my streak. Assassins attacked at 9:58 p.m. with bells and fireworks. I had prepared decoy beds. They stabbed 3 mattresses, inhaled sleep herb powder, and woke up tied to chairs listening to June explain supply taxes. Curse tried to reverse day and night. I declared our rest zone based on internal clocks and got everyone to wear paper watches drawn by children. The system accepted the intent because, apparently, sincerity plus arts and crafts can bully reality. Cole challenged me to a sparring match that accidentally ran long. Ava shot the arena clock at 9:40 as a warning. I forfeited. Cole complained until enforced quiet tripped him into a sandbag. Ava once collapsed from overwork while treating nightmare fever patients. She had been secretly pushing past quiet hours. I carried her to the rest zone, tucked her in, and assigned Cole to guard the door. He asked why him. I said because anyone trying to wake her will have to deal with your personality. He accepted the mission with pride. June created a bedtime economy. Blankets, earplugs, dream charms, warm meals, schedule boards. Some people called her greedy. She said greed was charging for nightmares. She was charging for laundry. The rest zone expanded. People came from other districts, families, wounded players, former grinders whose hands shook too badly to hold weapons, children who had forgotten what safe sleep felt like. Every night at 9, the library dimmed. Lamps glowed soft gold. The cafe closed. Guards rotated. Arguments moved outside. Cole stood at the gate like an angry statue with improved sleep hygiene. At 10, silence fell. And across the city, monsters avoided us. Not because we were strongest. Because the zone felt wrong to them. Peace in a ruined world is terrifying. But the closed eye sent one final test before my 365th day. The dreamless gate opened on the west side of the city. Like nightmare zones, it did not show bad dreams. It erased dreams completely. Anyone near it slept without images and woke weaker, emptier, less human. Skills tied to imagination failed. Healers lost compassion. Fighters lost instinct. Children stopped playing. Iris called it a wound in the dream layer. The system marked it as impossible. World event, dreamless gate. Recommended response, evacuation. Warning, dream-based abilities disabled inside. Warning, rest effects reduced by 90%. Everyone looked at me. Because of course they did. The sleep guy had to fight the anti-dream door. Ava stood beside me, pale but steady. You don't have to go. I do. Cole frowned. Your power won't work in there. Most of it won't. June tightened the straps on my pack, then take more normal tools. She gave me rope, chalk, jerky smoke pillows, 3 folding knives, a mirror, a tea bag, a stuffed rabbit, and a coupon book. I looked at the coupon book. She said, you never know. Dreamless Gate was a white rectangle floating between 2 ruined apartment towers. Around it, color faded, sound softened, even fear felt dull, like an emotion remembered from a brochure. When I stepped inside, the world became blank. No dream temple. No iris. No dreams thread. No rest guard. No funny system comments. Just a flat white city, empty streets, and a sky with no sun. For the first time, I was only Caleb. No cheat. No sacred bedtime. Just a guy who had insisted for almost a year that sleeping early could save the world. A creature waited in the blank city. It looked like a person-shaped hole, wearing a smooth white mask. Boss encountered the dreamless clerk. Ability, remove meaning. Of course it was a clerk. It held a clipboard. State your purpose, it said. To close the gate. Denied. Can I appeal? No. I nodded. Then I threw the coupon book at its face. It did not damage the clerk. But it looked down. That was enough. I ran. Without dreams, I could not overpower it, but I still had habits. Training repeated enough becomes part of the body. Every movement Iris had beaten into me remained. Every lesson, every trick, every embarrassing defeat against dream dragons had left marks deeper than the dream itself. The clerk chased, erasing streets behind me. I used chalk to mark walls. The marks faded but slower than everything else. Chalk is stubborn. It is basically dust with confidence. I drew arrows, circles, wrong directions, fake warnings. The clerk followed the official-looking ones because it had clerk energy. I led it through a blank office building. It tried to remove the meaning of doors, so I crawled through windows. It removed the meaning of stairs, so I slid down railings. It removed the meaning of weapons, so I hit it with a chair, because the meaning of chair violence is universal. Nothing killed it. But killing was never the goal. A gate needs an anchor. In the center of the blank city, I found it, a white bed with no pillow. The most offensive object I had ever seen. A bed without a pillow is not rest, it is a threat. The clerk appeared behind me. Dreams create disorder, it said. Rest must be empty. I pulled out my last normal pillow. Not legendary. Not trapped. Just mine. The clerk raised its hand to erase it. I hugged the pillow to my chest. It could erase dream magic. It could erase meaning in objects, but it could not erase memory from a living person without touching me. And I remembered everything. Ava learning to breathe before shooting. Cole pretending he was not taking naps. June inventing blanket capitalism. Iris smiling when I solved a problem the wrong way correctly. The library falling silent. The children sleeping. The city breathing. I placed the pillow on the white bed. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the system, faint and distant, whispered. Personal meaning detected. Rest anchor restored. Dreamless effect contested. The blank sky cracked. Iris's voice came through, weak but sharp. You sentimental idiot. The pillow glowed. The white bed became a real bed, the kind with warmth, weight, and the moral authority of clean sheets. Dreamless clerk screamed as color returned in patches. I grabbed the mirror June packed and angled it toward the bed. The restored rest reflected across the blank city like sunrise skipping across glass. The gate shook. Outside, Ava saw the white rectangle flicker and fired arrows into its corners. Cole drove lightning through the cracks. June opened inventory and released every blanket in storage. A storm of blankets covered the gate. The system called it a mass comfort event. The gate collapsed. World event cleared. Dreamless gate sealed. Reward acquired, rest anchor. Effect: your personal rest items resist erasure, corruption, theft, and bad betting. When I stumbled out, everyone cheered. I tried to say something cool. Instead, I passed out standing up. For the record, it was 4:12 p.m., so it did not count as early sleep. Iris visited me that night. For once, she did not push me off anything. We sat on the temple steps, watching the black moon tremble. You restored meaning without dreamcraft, she said. I had a pillow. You had memories. And a pillow. She smiled. Then her face grew serious. The 365th day is soon. Divine recovery will not simply heal you. It will connect you to the original law of rest. The eye will attack before or during the reward. Can we stop it? No. Can we delay it? Maybe. Can we make it regret scheduling? Her smile returned, that perhaps. The final 5 days before my streak anniversary were peaceful. Suspiciously peaceful. No major portals. No assassins. No cursed crowns. No coffee demons. Cole hated it. He said calm before disaster was worse than disaster, because at least disaster had clear punching instructions. Ava spent the days preparing evacuation routes. June counted supplies and muttered that divine events were expensive. Iris trained me lightly, focusing less on fighting and more on staying myself inside overwhelming dreams. On day 364, the system sent one message. Final streak threshold approaching. Maintain early sleep 1 more cycle. Warning: external interference likely. Likely. That word did a lot of work. Every important person in the safe zone gathered around the library by sunset. Guards lined the walls. Dream wards covered windows. June placed decoy beds throughout the district. Ava watched the rooftops. Cole stood near my room, sword out, glaring at the universe. I prepared for bed at 9:30 p.m. People treated it like a coronation. Which was weird because I was wearing pajama pants with tiny planets on them. At 9:50, the sky opened. Not a portal. An eyelid. The black moon appeared above the city, huge and half-open. A red slit of light poured down onto the library. The closed eye was waking. System alert, waking hunger manifestation. Objective, survive until dawn. Warning, sleep will be invaded. Warning, streak reward pending. Monsters appeared everywhere, not physical at first, but half-dream things crawling through walls. They had too many arms, too many mouths, and the urgent energy of people who send messages that say just checking in. The rest zone held. Barely. Ava's arrows pinned nightmare limbs to shelves. Cole's lightning carved glowing lines through the air. June opened inventory portals nonstop, swallowing monsters and dumping them into traps labeled by category, because even at the end of the world she believed in organization. I stood beside my bed. Iris appeared, fully visible now, spear in hand. You must sleep, she said. There are monsters. There are always monsters. Fair. At 9:59 p.m., a claw punched through the ceiling. Cole cut it in half. Ava shouted for me to get down. June threw a pillow at my face. Bed, now. I lay down. The eye in the sky opened wider. A voice filled the world, not loud, but impossible to ignore. Do not sleep. Every human in the city heard it. Some screamed, some froze, some dropped to their knees. My body shook. For the first time since day one, sleep felt impossible, not because I was afraid, but because the command pressed against the act itself. My eyelids refused to fall, my breath hitched, my heart hammered. Iris stood over me. Caleb. I'm trying. The voice returned. Rest is surrender. Rest is death. Rest is how I enter. I smiled weakly. That last one is actually a solid argument. Iris did not laugh. So I did the cleverest thing I could. I stopped trying to sleep for myself. I listened to the library. Hundreds of people behind reinforced doors, wounded players, former sleepless, children, Ava who had learned to rest without guilt, Cole who would rather fight God than admit he needed 8 hours, June who had built a kingdom of blankets out of pure logistics and mild greed. I breathed with them. The rest zone breathed back. Sovereignty of rest activated. Shared rhythm established. External command resisted. My eyelids closed. Sleep attempt detected. Current time 9:59 p.m. Early sleep condition met. Streak maintained. Dream invasion commencing. I fell into darkness. The dream temple was gone. In its place was the eye. Vast, red, endless, it hung above a black ocean filled with drowned alarm clocks. Every wave carried voices telling me to wake up, get up, move, fix, fight, prove, earn, suffer. The eye spoke. I am the first waking. I stood on the ocean's surface in pajamas, holding a pillow and feeling extremely underdressed for theology. Cool, I said, I'm Caleb. The eye focused on me. You made mortals weak. I made them less useless. You made them stop. I made them recover. You hid them from purpose. I hid them from burnout with tentacles. The ocean rose. Thousands of nightmare hands reached for me. Dream training gave me movement. Nightmare immunity kept my mind clear. Mental resistance held the whispers back. Rest anchor kept the pillow real in my hands. But the eye was not a normal enemy. It was bigger than my tricks. It attacked by opening possibilities. I saw every failure if I slept too much, every person I might not save, every dungeon I was too late to clear, every enemy growing stronger while I rested, every grave that could be blamed on my schedule. The visions hurt because some were true. Rest has a cost. Not resting has one too. The eye wanted me to choose panic. I chose a pillow. I placed it on the black ocean. The ocean formed a bed beneath me. The eye recoiled. Not from power. From insult. You keep acting like waking is the only sacred thing, I said, but every creature that lives has to stop. Even stars dim, even gods blink. You are not ambition, you are a tantrum with cosmic lighting. The eye screamed. The sound shattered the dream ocean. In the real world, the library walls cracked. Coal was thrown across the entrance. Ava's bow split. June's inventory doors flickered. Iris, standing between dream and reality, began to fade again. I needed something stronger. I had one final trick. For 364 days, I had protected my sleep. Now I used the streak itself as bait. I opened my system menu inside the dream and selected the one option I had never touched. Manual challenge, wager streak. Iris appeared beside me, horrified. No. The eye stopped attacking. It wanted the streak. It wanted to break the law I had built. It wanted proof that rest could fail. I smiled. I wager my streak on one condition. The system waited. The eye waited. I said a duel. Iris looked like she might kill me herself. The eye laughed and nightmares spilled across the sky. Terms requested. I pointed at the ocean bed. First one to wake up loses. For the first time, the ancient hunger of waking went silent. Iris stared. Then she started laughing. Not polite laughter. Real, exhausted, divine laughter. The eye had no concept of refusing. Its entire existence was waking. Its pride was waking. So a contest of sleep was an insult it could not ignore. Terms accepted. Dream duel initiated. Participants, Caleb and waking hunger manifestation. Victory condition, maintain sleep state longer than opponent. Stakes 365-day streak against manifestation foothold. The battlefield changed. 2 beds appeared above the black ocean. Mine was ordinary, blanket, pillow, slight tear on one corner. The eye's bed was enormous, made of obsidian, clocks, crowns, and the bones of dead nightmares. The eye descended into a humanoid shadow, tall as a tower, with one red eye where its face should have been. It lay down stiffly, like a villain attending a wellness retreat against its will. I lay down too. The duel began. It tried everything. Thunder, screams, visions, false emergencies. A fake Ava calling for help. A fake Cole saying he had finally admitted I was right. That one almost woke me from shock. The shadow twitched each time silence stretched. It hated stillness. It hated the heavy blanket of doing nothing. It hated that no matter how powerful it was, sleep required surrender. I had practiced surrender every night. Not giving up. Letting go. The first hour passed. Then the second. The eye's shadow shook. It whispered commands to itself. Wake, rise, move, rule. I breathed slowly. At some point I dreamed of the first night, the dirty cot, Cole laughing, Ava hiding a smile, June asking if my cheat code was bedtime. I remembered feeling small. I remembered choosing the rule anyway. The shadow screamed and sat up. It woke. The system exploded in gold light. Dream Duel 1. Streak preserved. 365-day sleep streak achieved. Reward acquired, divine recovery. Effect, restore body, mind, spirit, and skill channels during valid sleep. Additional effect, fatal condition may be reversed once per dawn if sleep is maintained. Law awakened, rest is not absence, rest is return. The eye's manifestation cracked. But it did not die. Of course it did not die. Nothing with that much dramatic lighting dies in part 1. It reached for me with one final claw and pierced my chest inside the dream. In the real world, my body stopped breathing. Ava screamed. Cole tried to reach me but collapsed under nightmare pressure. June opened every inventory door at once, flooding the room with blankets, weapons, food, and one extremely confused chair. Iris struck the shadow, but her spear shattered. The eye whispered, "Wake now or die asleep." It thought that was checkmate. But it had missed the new rule. Fatal condition detected. Divine recovery pending at dawn. Condition maintains sleep. So I did the hardest thing I had ever done. I did not wake up. I let myself die a little. The dream went dark. Then dawn touched the library. My body inhaled. Every wound closed, every burned nerve cooled, every cracked part of my mind clicked back into place. Mana poisoning I had accumulated without noticing vanished. Old scars faded. The sleep debt of a year of war dissolved like mist. And the recovery did not stop with me. The rest zone surged. Ava's broken bow repaired with dreamlight. Cole's lightning scars vanished. June's overstrained inventory stabilized. Former sleepless woke clear-eyed. Children stopped crying. The hospital patients breathed easily for the first time in months. The black moon screamed and pulled back from the sky. Not defeated. Wounded. Angry. Aware. I opened my eyes at 5:55 a.m. Everyone was staring. I sat up slowly. My pajamas were somehow spotless. Cole looked like he had seen religion and hated the paperwork. Ava was crying, which she would deny forever. June looked at the system screen, then at me, then at the mountain of supplies she had accidentally released during the crisis. "You died," she said. "For a bit. You slept through death. I had a streak." Cole covered his face with one hand. "I hate this world." The city celebrated that day. They called it the dawn recovery. They said I had pushed back a god. They said rest had become a weapon. They said I was the strongest player in the region. I accepted none of those titles, because title inflation is how organizations collapse. But privately, I knew everything had changed. Divine recovery was absurd. After valid sleep, wounds vanished, mental corruption burned away, skill channels cleared, my body returned better than before, as if sleep was rewriting me from the last healthy blueprint and then adding improvements because it felt generous. I could train harder in dreams because damage did not carry. I could fight longer during the day because recovery was guaranteed. I could take risks no sane player would take as long as I protected the night. And that created a new kind of strategy. I became the player who could spend himself completely before bedtime and return at dawn like nothing happened. Ava called it unfair. Cole called it cheating. June called it a subscription model. I called it being well-rested. But power changes the board. The council that ignored me now requested guidance. Guilds that mocked rest adopted quiet hours. Players started building bedrolls into armor. One man tried to duel while carrying a mattress on his back and got stuck in a doorway for 20 minutes. The rest movement spread beyond our city. Messages arrived from other safe zones. Some had nightmare outbreaks. Some had sleepless cults. Some had rulers using fatigue to control workers and fighters. The apocalypse had created monsters, but people had created management. I wanted to help everyone. That was the trap. Divine recovery made me feel like I could. Iris warned me the day after the dawn recovery. You survived by honoring limits, she said. Now power will tempt you to ignore them. I still sleep at 10. That is not the only limit. She was right. But being right is different from being convenient. For 2 weeks, I moved from crisis to crisis. At dawn, I cleared a parasite dungeon. By noon, I negotiated with a shelter that refused quiet hours because their leader believed sleep made soldiers soft. At sunset, I fought a beast made of broken lullabies. At 9:30, I returned to the library, slept, and woke fully restored. It worked. Too well. Every day, more people asked. Every day, the map looked bigger. Every day, I felt less like Caleb and more like a public utility with pajamas. Ava noticed first. She found me on the library roof, checking messages while the sun set. You missed dinner, she said. I ate jerky. That is not dinner, that is chewing punishment. I kept reading. A safe zone to the north had lost its dream ward. A caravan needed escort. A dungeon was producing insomnia fog. Ava took the papers from my hands. I looked up. She said, you are doing it. Doing what? Grinding. The word hit harder than expected. She was right. I was not staying up late. I was not drinking stimulants. I was not ignoring the system. But I was turning every waking hour into a battlefield. I had become the thing I mocked, just with better bedtime branding. I wanted to argue. Instead, I laughed. It came out tired. Ava sat beside me. The world can wait for one meal. That sounds irresponsible. It sounds like something you taught everyone else. That night, I slept with guilt clawing at the edges of my mind. Dream training opened, but Iris was not at the temple. Instead, the black moon was visible again. Smaller than before. Closer than before. A crack ran across it from our duel. Inside the crack, I saw light. Not red. Blue. A system window appeared in the dream sky. Unknown region unlocked, the sleeping realm. Access condition, divine recovery. Warning, forgotten gods detected. Warning, waking hunger, retreat path detected. Warning, entering may change the system. Iris appeared behind me. She looked afraid. I thought the sleeping realm was gone, she whispered. What is it? The source of every rest law, the place gods went when mortals stopped praying and monsters stopped fearing. A graveyard, a sanctuary, a prison, perhaps all three. The window flickered. New streak path available. 1,000-day sleep streak, authority of dawn. Condition, survive the sleeping realm's invitation. I stared at the words. 1,000 days. The system had turned my bedtime into a road, leading somewhere ancient and absurd. Then the black moon cracked wider. Something looked out from the sleeping realm. Not the waking hunger. Something else. It had many closed eyes, each one glowing like a sunrise behind curtains. A voice spoke gently inside the dream. Child of rest, you have defended the night. Now return what was stolen. I woke up before dawn. Not naturally. Not by alarms. By choice. The room was dark. My system screen floated above me with a message that had never appeared before. Invitation received. The sleeping realm opens at next dusk. Only the keeper of the 10 p.m. law may enter. Companions allowed 3. Warning, divine recovery may not function beyond the first gate. I sat up. Ava was asleep in the chair beside my bed, bow across her lap. Cole was snoring loudly outside the door, pretending to guard. June had left a note on my table that said, if this is another God problem, charge admission. I looked at the clock. 5:54 a.m. 1 minute before the alarm. For almost a year, waking up had meant victory. That morning, it felt like the beginning of something much worse. Because the apocalypse had mocked my bedtime. The guilds had doubted my discipline. The monsters had tried to punish my rest. The gods had noticed my streak. And now the place where sleep itself was born had opened a door for me. I smiled despite myself. Because honestly, what was I supposed to do? Ignore an ancient divine invitation because it sounded dangerous. Actually, yes, that would be reasonable. But then the system added one more notification. Special objective, restore the first pillow. I stared at the screen. The first what? Outside, thunder rolled through a clear sky. Ava opened one eye, Caleb. Cole stopped snoring. June's inventory doors opened by themselves, spilling blankets across the floor. In the dream sky beyond the window, the cracked black moon blinked. And somewhere very far away, something ancient laughed softly, like it had just set an alarm. To be continued.